question we all need answered. How do lifestyle changes affect cancer remission? Starting with dietary.
Well, diet plays such a crucial role because you depend on nutrients, certain nutrients that you're not deriving from the air. Even though the air is the biggest supplier of nutrients. Most people don't even think that way. Well, the air is comprised of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. Now, these four molecules make up all the vegetation, all the things that we eat, if you're vegetarian. So a plant, an avocado, has some protein in it, so it's carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. Typical carbohydrates, carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. So they combine, they are literally taken from the air, they are in the presence of sunlight converted into carbohydrates, which you eat.
All right.
And you get some nutrients or some minerals from the soil, but that's about it. So most of the nutrients come from the air. We breathe in carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen, and our body converts those into proteins, amino acids.
Okay.
So every amino acid is made of these four molecules. So our body is mostly protein and water. Okay, so when we make our protein, we don't need to eat protein, for example, we make it literally by breathing in air. That's why I've not eaten protein for 35 years and I'm still here.
Okay, so you're saying that's a big dietary change right there.
Big one. That's a huge one because there's a study, it's called the China study. And there are many, many studies that show that not eating meat, animal products, animal proteins, will reduce the risk of cancer dramatically. There are so many studies, and have been for decades now. So it's not something that I make up. It's written in my book, you can see the references, they are all there. So diet plays a huge role, and now with the new study from the National Institute of Cancer, and 550,000 people showed that the risk of dying from any kind of disease by not eating meat is dramatically lower than people who eat, like 20% increased risk of dying from cancer or heart disease or other illnesses. So diet plays a huge role. When you eat, the meal times, if you eat your biggest meal in the evening, like most people nowadays do, because it's convenient, they clog up their gastrointestinal tract. They have a lot of decomposed foods in their intestines, rotting foods that then become a source of poisoning the body.
Right.
And again, you have a cause of cancer. Eating sweet foods, sugary foods, processed foods, highly refined foods. Sugar itself is now recognized as a cancer-producing food. So because it shuts down the immune system, literally shuts it down. So a lot of kids, a lot of children develop leukemia and other lymphatic cancers, Hodgkin's disease, because they have been already fed with sugar, even while they're supposed to be breastfed for the first 1.5 years, and they're getting other kinds of junk food. Or they
used to put sugar in baby food. They've stopped doing that, but they probably put high fructose corn syrup in.
Yes, refined sugars, and again, they go right into the bloodstream from the stomach, and they produce insulin. And insulin, when you make too much insulin, you are putting yourself big time at risk for cancer, because insulin is a cancer-producing hormone if you make too much. So that's why there are so many cancers when people overdo it with refined carbohydrates, like flour, starch, white flour products, which also have so many chemicals in them. There are more 95 chemicals now in white flour. So it's chemicals that are added to food. Then there are heavy metals that people ingest. Heavy metals are also indicated to cause cancer. Dietary is definitely a major reason why people get ill. We haven't touched upon the medical drugs, which are mostly cancer-producing as well.
Well.
And that your antibiotics, anytime you use antibiotics, you are suppressing the immune system, you are fighting the body. You're not just fighting the bacteria, you're fighting the rest of the body. The body is comprised or composed of mostly bacteria. 90% of the cells in our body are bacteria cells. Only 10% of us is human cells.
Really?
90% is bacteria. So instead of calling ourselves human beings, we should call ourselves bacterial beings, because that's what we really are. Now, if you take antibiotics and you start targeting the largest part of our body, 90% of the body, you start killing and you create corpses of dead bacteria, what are you going to do with them? They have to be decomposed by other bacteria. That means you increase the need or requirement for destructive bacteria versus probiotic bacteria that are helping to digest your food, produce certain nutrients like B vitamins. So all of that starts diminishing, and you create a total chaos in the body. For every antibiotic, any round of antibiotic you have taken, your bacteria population in your gut has been disrupted for an entire year. So it's a very, very serious thing, and I find every person who had cancer or came to me with cancer, they had frequent use of some kind of medical drug in the past. It's rare that you find someone who didn't use painkillers for headaches or antibiotics for infections, as if that is a disease.
Okay.
And many other ailments. So suppressing of functions in the body that are part of the body's healing mechanisms is a big mistake, I would say, that is part of the root causes for cancer.